I want to welcome Will Blakey here is going to be with us tonight, and he's going to be talking about his band, Never the Name, and a song that I happen to find called Consequences. And really great song, and Will's going to talk to us about the song tonight, how it came together, and the video, which was filmed at the House of Independence in Asbury Park. So I want to welcome you, Will. Welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me tonight. I appreciate it.
So great video, great song. I love the lyrics.
Thank you.
To talk about the song, tell us about how the song came together, and then we'll get to the video.
This song is probably the formation of the musical aspect of it is probably the most unique of all of the songs that will be on the album that we're going to be putting out, sometime in the spring. It's the only song in a rare sequence of songs where I ever wrote drums first. We're literally kind of messing around with that drum pattern and liked it, kind of just took note of it. It was like, I'm going to go back and, we'll figure something out around the drum pattern. And it just kind of took a life of its own musically, with it's more of a moody kind of song, if you will, but it when it came together, it all made sense. That's the musical side of it. Lyrically, the song itself is about, mental health and mental health struggles, and in particular, suicide, addressing the issue, not shying away from it. And basically the song is a plea to someone who is considering suicide. The song is pleading for them to, not, take that route, but rather, believe in and look towards the sunlight. And you say, I see you shine bright. And there's a line in the lyric in the song that says, "You matter," because I feel like sometimes people just need to be reminded that you do matter. You do matter to the people around you.
That was the thing that stood out so much on that song. I mean, the message in there. I mean, you called it moody, but there's a bright message in it. As moody,
Mm-hmm.
there is a bright message in it. The lyrics are very, I found the lyrics to be uplifting.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us more about the the drums. You said you kind of revolved the song around the drum. What was the inspiration?
Yeah,
Like, how did that come together? Talk about the creative part.
the creative part of that song was it's like I said, it was written. It's one of the only times the song was ever created drums first.
Mm-hmm.
Messing around with the tracking of I don't remember which song on the album was tracking at the time. I think it was a song that is not going to be released as a single, but it'll be on the album. It's a song on the album called Catastrophe, and kind of in between takes, just kind of started messing around with that drum pattern, just because, you got an instrument, you're going to fiddle around, and liked it. The pattern that you hear on the verse with the snare roll,
Yeah.
and was kind of like, all right, let's take note of that, and then I'll revisit it later. And later eventually came around, and it was just kept listening to that pattern to the point where I ended up cutting it into like almost like a loop. I kept putting it on repeat,
Mm-hmm.
and mentally I started to hear like the droning bass line of it, where you just have that that one note just pulsing underneath that drum pattern. And then I started to hear the other parts of the song. They came together, the Rhodes keyboard and the, almost mysterious like guitar. So it's got the distortion, but it's not too overbearing. And the song that actually came to mind, if you're familiar with it, was Dirty Diana by Michael Jackson.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because if you listen to that song, it has that contrast where it's got this almost ominous and mysterious verse to it, and then it just kicks in with the distortion and the heavy drive on the chorus. And same thing with the vocal treatment. It's Michael sings a bit more aggressively in that song, but it's kind of almost like an understated verse compared to a very dynamic chorus. And that's the effect or energy I was going for with that song, but I hadn't come up with lyrics for it yet, or even a topic. And then, I have people in my life who have dealt with mental health issues when it comes to being suicidal. And thankfully, in most cases, that ended with, treatment and therapy and getting the help that they need, and just, being told, hey, listen, you matter to me, at least, I want you to be here. And I had a friend who was one of my earliest musical influences, such a talented musician, such a great guy, but I knew he was going through his battling his demons. And, I stayed in touch with him, and I would talk to him, and, he was always, I'm okay. No, I'm doing better. He was like, almost like our version of a Robin Williams. He hid everything behind a wall of humor.
Yeah.
He was the guy that could go into a room and make everybody laugh. Everybody loved him. He was the greatest person. And then the irony of it is, I started to think about him and what he must be going through, and I started to write that song. And it said, if I could say anything to him to get through to him, this is what I would say. And that's how it kind of came to be. And the sad truth and almost irony of the situation is, I wrote the song, and a week later I heard from, his ex-girlfriend and his sister that he had, in fact, committed suicide a week ago. So in other words, I learned about it a week after I wrote the song, and it comes to find out he had committed suicide at the same time I was technically writing the song. So it's a song that he never got to hear.
Wow, I'm sorry to hear about that.
Yeah.
Oh, so with the drums and with the music, that it's almost like you said. So that's where that the mood of the song kind of started first, and then you were so personally connected to, I guess, the beats, the rhythms that were coming out of it, and it kind of led you to the lyrics. Is that right?
Yeah, it definitely did. It led me down the path of those lyrics. It just, something about it just put me in that headspace where I was like, if I could say something that was meaningful to someone who might be going through something, what would I say? And between that friend and other people in my life who I know have considered suicide, I was like, this is what I would like to say to them all. And that's how it came to be, even down to the performance of the song. I told everybody when I recorded the verses for the song, I wanted to be almost vulnerable. It's one of the few times where me as myself would put myself in a vulnerable state, which is why the verses seem so soft when I sing them. Mm-hmm. Like I had to actually get up on the microphone and sing it almost understated to kind of convey what I was trying to convey the correct way. That's the best way to say it.
Well, I think you really achieved that in a very powerful way, because I honestly think it resonated pretty strong with me. That's, hearing that song is really what prompted me to reach out. It's a powerful song. It's a powerful message. The music, the lyrics, and like you said, even though there's kind of like that underlying mood there's a message. There's a positive message, in there.
Absolutely.
You talked about that being a different manner in which you put a song together. What's your usual way to put the songs together? Is it lyrics first?
No, lyrics for me are usually either, it's weird, they kind of fit into this space where they're either second or last, if that makes sense, or
sure,
or it's more like simultaneously or last. Because my first instrument was guitar, so a lot of times I write songs from the guitar, and then depending on the style of song, I might write it to the bass. Sometimes I might write it from the piano, but very rarely do I write it from the drums.
Okay, yeah.
That that's a deeper level of finding inspiration, because the drums is just a rhythmic pattern without any notation, but you sometimes you hear the notation in it. But yeah, normally I do write from the guitar first.
So you start with a riff and then kind of go from there.
And go from there, and then the lyrics might come. The lyrics can come at the same time as the guitar riff. The lyrics can come a week later. The lyrics can come a year later. I have songs that I have fully finished that I have no idea what the lyrics are to this day, because it's just, I won't force lyrics. I just let them happen.
Synchronicity, kind of waiting. They're kind of, you kind of put them away and wait for the time.
Correct.
How do you know when it's time? How do you know when it's time to pull one out?
That's the beauty of both music and life. You don't really know. There's no certainty or surety in that in any way. Just that inspiration hits, or sometimes, yes, I might come up with a vocal melody or a set of lyrics, and as I'm singing them, I realize there's a song that I've written that fits, and it just kind of evolves from there. That's actually, I mean, if I could divert back to the first single, it's just much like that. Quasimodo's Love Note was probably written, I want to say, maybe 4 years ago, and it just sat until I had something that I wanted to say and express, and then I realized that the lyrics that I was writing fit, and then I was like, I know exactly where to put that.
So the inspiration came in maybe a situation, or like you said, the lyric, maybe a lyric resonated with you and you thought, wow, this is gonna fit into something I've already kind of put together. Let's try to connect.
Correct.
Let's connect it.
Yeah, that happens in some cases with me. Like you said, a lyric resonates or a situation resonates, and a lot of the stuff I write is a bit broader than myself. Sometimes I'm writing about the people around me and experiences they've had, not necessarily an experience that I've had.
Sure.
Even though taking a look at Quasimodo's Love Note, I mean, it's written about, kind of the work environment, and we've all dealt with, I'm quite sure, people in the work environments, or I'll just say we're characters.
So, inspiration in general, can you tell us about some sources, your sources of inspiration?
Yeah, sure. I am, kind of what they call old school in that way. I still do like to write about love. But I've learned to expand that, because a lot of the earlier songs I wrote were really just love songs. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, as you go through life and you have your experiences, and you get older and time goes on, you realize that love is great, but there are so many other things that are powerful and relatable that you could talk about. And sometimes it's just being able to put yourself out there. Quasimodo's Love Note, again, prime example, I didn't think I'd be talking about, workplace experiences as a whole and making a song out of it. But you know what? Everybody deals with it, and you kind of get fed up with it, so you write a song about it.
Yeah.
You take consequences. I never thought I'd be faced with those types of situations with people I care about, and there it was. So you have to be comfortable in being uncomfortable about what you're going to talk about.
Agreed. And I think sometimes, if you're familiar with Rick Rubin,
absolutely.
Yeah. So the creative act is like, that's my, I refer to that often just in my own songwriting and just in my own creative blocks. But, he talks too about like, the universe will tell you when it's time to resurrect, a lyric or a guitar song, like, and it's just a matter of tuning into the messages, being able to listen to the universe, or the, things that are resonating, like you said, in situations, in our workplace, things resonating around us, emotions, situations.
Yep, absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about your musical influences.
All right. So, I was raised on the Motown sound.
Oh yeah.
That's what my parents listened to. They listened to the Motown sound. They listened to jazz. So those are the things that I grew up listening to. I gravitated towards the Jackson Five because in my mind they were kids like me. Even though at the time I did not understand the difference in the timeline, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm
Right.
thinking, oh, they're kids like me, and my parents are like, no, you see the guy moonwalking across the stage, that's Michael Jackson. Now I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't quite get that. As a
We're
kid.
putting that part together. Yep.
But it didn't matter. I was still very much a big Jackson Five fan early on, and it's still am to this day. I still listen to Jackson Five cuts. It doesn't go out of style to me, and so I was big into that. And then like my older sister, she kept me kind of more current. Growing up listening to her playing, bands like New Edition.
Mm-hmm.
And things like that, whatever was current at the time. And then my cousins introducing me to hip hop. But I just kind of held on to that Motown sound because I liked the instrumentation. It was people singing with passion. It was people telling stories. It had, one hell of a groove.
Oh yeah.
And the instrumentation was all there, and I was absolutely captivated at the time. And I didn't realize until I was an adult how much I was captivated by music. I wanted to know how a song was put together. I wanted to know, well, how they think of doing that, how they think of doing this, how they think of doing that. And then, so obviously, being in that general area, I found Stevie Wonder.
Ooh yeah.
So
Oh.
you find Stevie Wonder and your world is changed.
Oh yeah.
Because the compositions of what he writes it's almost untouchable.
Magical.
It's magical.
Magical.
You get Prince, you get Earth, Wind and Fire. You start going down that path, and those were the early influences. And I laugh because later in life, a movie called American Pie came out.
Mm-hmm.
And it had that famous line from, I forget the character's name, but actress Allison Hannigan. She says, this one time at band camp. And
yeah.
that's
a classic. Yep.
That's a classic. It became a trending line, but it was twice as hysterical to me because I actually went to band camp.
Oh, boy.
So my parents sent me to band camp, and if you know the final end of that line, if you make it to the end of the movie and remember what she says, I can tell you that those stories about band camp are completely true. But that is another.
Oh, that's wild.
That is another subject. But
so
my mom sent me to band camp, and she signed me up for a class. She wanted me to try something called American Rock Ensemble. And I was like, okay. And I took that class, and it was really like a real life school of rock.
Wow.
You had a teacher who was clearly, trying to hold on to the glory days of his youthful rock days. And then you had literally, except for the fact that we had two kids who played drums, it was literally one on guitar, which was actually me at the time.
Uh-huh.
One kid who played bass, one girl who played piano, and like I said, two kids who played drums. And of course, the teacher also played guitar because this class was a trial class that nobody signed up for. Because
Wow.
the band camp, seriously, the band camp was a bit snooty. So it was all classical students and theater kids.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so they tried American Rock Ensemble, and we basically had enough literally just to make a band because nobody signed up for it. And it was that class that changed things for me. That's where I was introduced to Metallica. I was introduced to Bush. I was introduced to Nirvana. These are bands that I had heard of, but I had never really listened to their music. And then somebody introduced me to the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I was like, okay, this is it for me. This is what I need to know.
And your Motown influences became infused with rock and roll. Is that right?
Absolutely, that was it.
Wow, so. Had you ever had any inkling to take up the guitar before your mom encouraged you to go to the band camp?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm kind of glazing over that. By the time I went to band camp, I already played 3 instruments. I
Oh,
already played guitar, bass,
okay.
and drums.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I already played guitar, bass, and drums by the time I went to band camp. She's just when she signed me up as a guitar player.
So you were already playing the instruments, but then that other influence kind of came in, and
Yeah, exactly.
literally rocked your world.
Literally rocked my world. I remember we had 2 drummers, like I said. So for the final performance of the camp, you get to perform 2 songs. So that kind of worked out. One kid played drums for one song, the other kid played drums for the other, and the rest of us had to play both songs. And the one kid, looking back on it at the time, I didn't realize how very talented of a drummer he was, because the song that we chose, and he wanted to play this song, and we were like, absolutely, was Metallica's Enter Sandman.
Ooh,
So,
wow.
And, I'm there on guitar with no experience playing rock music like that. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what is this?
Would you call that a moody song?
It's definitely got a mood to it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it was definitely like a culture shock. I was like, okay, I've never played in this style before, but I like it, so I could do that. And the other song we played was Machine Head by Bush.
Oh yeah,
far easier than Enter Sandman.
Another classic. As far as the instruments go, how old were you when you picked up the instruments and started playing?
Guitar was 6, bass was 8, drums was 12, and piano was 16.
Wow, multi-instrumentalist at a very early age.
Yeah, and like I said, I didn't understand the time differential, but I saw the Jackson 5 doing it, and I said, well, that means I could do it.
Yeah. As far as training goes and learning it, did you learn on your own or did you take formal lessons?
I had a teacher who taught me the basics of guitar, and it was funny because I would frustrate him a lot because he would assign me songs and he wanted me to learn how to read, which thankfully that was encouraged, and I do know how to read music, but because I didn't realize it was a skill. I would play by ear, and he would say he's not learning by reading, he's learning by listening. So he would throw me for loops by giving me things that you could only find in books.
That you had to read.
That I had to read,
Yeah.
something I wasn't going to turn on the radio and hear. So I had, formal lessons for the guitar for maybe, I want to say, a year. And then that was it. And then I said I wanted to play bass. And just because I wanted to get acclimated, I went back to the same guy and had lessons on bass for like 3 months. And then that was it. After that, I just learned on my own until I got to a point where I was playing in school.
Great. And then you just picked up on that and started developing your skills.
Yep.
And then moved.
I mean, when you're in early high school and the band director in high school I played bass and the band director was a bass player, so he would pick songs like Jungle Boogie and Sir Duke, and I'm like, you want me to play what? But you know what? I'm grateful because I play Sir Duke all the time, and that's a complicated riff.
It's a great song.
I don't even sweat it anymore.
Yeah, it's probably your fingers know right where to go.
Yeah, they're on autopilot.
Yeah, and that's the that's when you know talent, when it's just becomes so instinctual.
Yep. It's still fun though. I love that song.
Yeah, it's a great song. As far as the band goes, and I'll admit I'm a new fan to the band. So for our listeners who may not have heard of the band, Never the Name, tell us about the band.
Sure. So Never the Name was actually the first band I ever started, the first set of songs I ever wrote. And I did a couple of shows with that band in the early 2000s. And then just kind of disbanded that band. One person moved away, another person got caught up in other stuff, and then I just kind of disbanded that. And after that, I kind of was always in other people's bands. But I never stopped writing songs. And fast forward, I'm in 3 other bands aside from Never the Name. And I write songs for one of the bands, and I write my own bass lines for the other 2 bands. And, you know, through the community, people would always say, hey, when are we getting the Will Blakey album? When are you going to put out a Will Blakey album?
Oh, wow, yeah.
And I was always like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Yeah, when I tell you this went on for like 10 years, like a whole nother decade, yeah, I'm going to do it. Finally, I was just kind of like, I'll do it.
I think, you know, that's probably a pretty common story.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So yeah, artists, people around me, you know, peer musicians, they were putting out albums, and it was like out of nowhere. And it was like people who I didn't even know were working on albums. And I was like, what am I doing? My peers are putting out albums. I said, you know what? Pick X amount of songs from what you've written and put together an album. And I did that. And then I just decided, you know, we're going to go forward with that process. And
it was time.
Was it. You know, it was time.
It was time. The universe said it's time.
The universe said it's time. And, you know, kind of put that together, you know, got it all squared away, but really needed to lock in the musicians who would be Never the Name, which when I asked, you know, family, which I gave them a list of like 5 band names, and I said, what do you think? I said, because I don't want this to be a Will Blakey album. I don't want this to be a Will Blakey project. I like being in a band. I like the concept of working with, you know, fellow musicians to, you know, bring music or art in the form of music to life. And I really like that dynamic. And what's funny is everybody I asked voted for Never the Name. And I would say that, you know, it was number 1 for, you know, a few people, and it was always in the top 5. So I was like, it's the only name that is consistently there. And so I went and I started doing all these searches and all of these things. And I said, it's been, you know, at this point, you know, 20 some odd years, somebody else has to have used this name by now. And I was surprised to see no one has claimed Never the Name.
Wow, that's an interesting story. So basically it was resurrected, like a rebirth.
It was resurrected. It was reborn.
It was reborn. Yeah. It sounds like, you know, and you were allowing it to be reborn with this idea of wanting to rebirth it with collaboration, and just not rebirthing it yourself, but kind of bringing some, you know, other artistic, creative forces into it.
Right. Because like I said, I'm in 3 other bands. So I literally took a member from each of the 3 other bands.
Wow. Okay.
So just, you know, going in order of bands that I'm in, I've been in a band called the Brian Hansen Band for quite a long time. And we have a number of albums out. And through that band, I got to know drummer Joshua Van Ness, who I like to call him the people's drummer, because that man is the hardest working drummer I have ever known in existence. But he is such an amazing person. And he was one of those people that would be on me like, so when are we getting the Will Blakey album?
Right on.
I remember once upon a time, he and I had a conversation one-on-one, just he and I. And he said, hey, if you ever put out that album, you ever get that thing, and you need somebody on drums, he said, I'm your man. He said, I got you. I'm there for you.
Wow.
And I never forgot he said that. And years later, when I made that call, he also remembered. He said, I remember what I said to you once upon a time. He said, I'm in. And it was just that simple. And I'm grateful for it, because, like I said, seriously, he is busy. He is busy with so many projects that he would even entertain squeezing in, you know, Never the Name meant a lot to me. But he's a man of his word, and he's a friend. He's a brother.
From what you said, it sounds like, I mean, I'm not surprised that he's in a number, you know, busy and doing a number of things, because it sounds like you brought him in as he was a motivating force, right? For the resurrection of the band of Never the Name.
Absolutely. Right? He's one of the people that was on me, like, get it done. I was like,
wow, yeah.
But yeah, I work with him with Brian Hansen band because sometimes he's the drummer for Brian Hansen band. Then there's Matt Cook and the Herd, and that's how I met Tom Bryant. Tom Bryant is the guitar player for Matt Cook and the Herd.
Uh-huh.
And so I got to work with Tom over the years, and I got to know Tom, and he's really a quiet, reserved guy, but he is a phenomenal guitarist. And
Absolutely.
I having worked with him and realizing what he was doing with Matt Cook and the Herd's music, I realized that Tom could play anything you'll ask him to play. If you ask him to do, a 16 measure shredding guitar solo, Tom can do it. If you ask him to play 2 notes, not even chords, 2 notes, I just need you to play these 2 notes because it contributes to the entirety of the song, Tom can do it. And he doesn't let something like ego or the need to, show off his skills get in the way. And he's overall just an amazing guitarist, but a very humble guy. And I just I know.
Agreed.
I want Tom Bryant on guitar.
Agreed. And, I'm not sure if Tom told you, but he's actually, since I don't play an instrument, but I've been writing songs, and the universe has told me over the last few years it's time to get my songs out. But since I don't play, I'm relying on artists, creative friends and musicians to help me bring some of my songs to life. And Tom's actually been helping me with bring one of my blues songs to life. And everything you said is spot on.
Yes,
spot on. So
Tom is truly great, and now I'm looking forward to hearing you put out your song.
Yeah, it's been a really fun process. Now Tom's actually helping me bring it to a band level, like out of acoustic and full band. So
right, putting it all together.
Yeah, bringing it all together. So I'm learning a lot, and Tom's he's been great. And like you said, everything that you said is just spot on. And I've been it's a great collaboration. And like yourself, I love the power of collaborating. Whether it's with songwriting, whether it's musical arrangements, even brainstorming ideas. And there's so much talent in our community, and I love just making people aware that this talent is there. I mean, I don't have to tell you, it takes a village to get your material out there. You could have all the talent, and it's still very difficult at times to get it out there. And I really do believe it takes a village. So I think whenever, with collaborations, it's a great thing because people feed the energy, you feed off each other, you feed off the inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are the things that need to be contagious these days.
Yeah. And to round out my village.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Last but certainly not least, I'm in a band called The Extensions, which is very ingrained in the Asbury Park scene. And that's where I can't say I met because I have known her from before, but that's where I picked up Lisa Lovell, who is the keyboardist for The Extensions. And I have her doing, Keys and Never the Name, but I also know that she plays guitar. So I gave her the very challenging task of asking if she would play both instruments. And she didn't even hesitate. She was like, yeah. I'll do it. I'll play both instruments.
Fantastic.
So you take the live performance of a song like Consequences, and she plays the piano for the verse and then the guitar on the chorus. I really enjoy working with Lisa. She is quite the character. She is the one in the band that you got to watch out for. Don't let her size fool you.
That's great. That's great. Well, you can tell she's a dynamic performer. It's a dynamic video.
Yeah, they all really brought their A game to the video for Consequences, and I truly appreciate all that they do because I always tell them all the time I appreciate your time because we're all busy. We all have day jobs, and we're all working musicians in other projects.
Mm-hmm.
And here I am asking them to be a part of another project, and they're like, You need us, we're here. So I truly appreciate, Joshua, Tom, and Lisa for all that they do. I tell them, let's show up and do a photo shoot. They show up. Let's show up and film some content. They show up. Let's show up and film a music video. They show up. Let's rehearse this song. They show up. The music video for Quasimodo's Love Note was filmed in a warehouse that was almost 2 hours away. And they showed up on, I think it was like a Tuesday night.
That's great.
And we started filming at 9 and wrapped at almost midnight and still had to drive almost 2 hours back. And
home.
They were just like, whatever you need. So I tell you, I genuinely appreciate each one of them and their time and their dedication.
That's a beautiful collaboration.
It is. And on top of which, they're just phenomenal musicians. They pick up everything so fast that it's like, all right, when we get into the fine tuning of things, it's like, I don't have to do a lot of work at all. You guys really, you got this. And it's funny, you start to see another side of musicians where they're like, am I doing this right? I'm like, you guys are great. What are you talking about?
Don't question yourself, right?
Yeah, you guys are, I love working with them. Like, we had a day recently when we were just doing a bunch of content. We rehearsed some of the songs, and it was almost like I couldn't stop smiling. I couldn't stop laughing because I'm like, it was fun. Whether we got something right or we got something wrong, it was just fun. And that's what I love about being in a band as opposed to, the Will Blakey project.
You make a really cool point because I think a big part of the fun, like you said, is in the process. I mean, sometimes, as artists, or whatever, you're just working on a project, even if it's a song, we get so caught up in what the final output's going to be that sometimes we can lose track of the fun in the process itself. So when the process is fun, that's great. And when you're surrounded by people who help make the process fun, even better. Like what a great gift.
Yeah, no one ever gives the impression that it's an inconvenience for them, or like, can we wrap this up? I gotta go do this or go do that. They're like, hey, let's do this. Let's get it done. Let's have fun with it. Like, I mean, I don't know if you saw the most recent post that was on the Never the Name Instagram, which, just for those of you listening, Never the Name is on Instagram and TikTok, and YouTube.
All right.
So it's Instagram and YouTube. It's never_the_name. And TikTok, it's just Never the Name without the underscores. But if you saw the last thing we did on our YouTube, it's not on our YouTube, it's on our TikTok and our Instagram. It was that low center of gravity challenge. Yeah, we did it. So it's, for those of you not familiar with that, but it's just an example of us having fun.
It looked like fun.
Yeah, it was. It was a little dangerous, but it was fun. Like, it claims that, and the claim is that women have a lower center of gravity than men. So I'm like, all right, well, we have a woman in our group. Let's test this out. And when I tell you, I gave Lisa the challenge, and she did it effortlessly. Like, what's the problem? And she's like, wait, you guys can't do this? And I'm like, no. And like, we tried. Joshua and I, we kept falling over. Joshua tried like 10 times before we even started rolling, the camera, and he just kept falling. He was determined. Tom tried it and fell a few times, but if you watch the video,
it looked like you guys were having fun, though. That's for sure.
Tom pulls it off at the end, and I keep rewatching the video in slow mo. I think Tom cheated.
Let's go to the videotape.
I gotta check his back pockets for this. I'm like, wait a minute, there's no way, Tom.
That's funny.
But yeah, that's what I mean. Like, they're fun. You got to be able to have fun, and I feel like that's the best way of doing it. Going back to not the Will Blakey project, because it's not about me. It's about the band. Never the Name
and the collaboration.
And the collaboration.
Yeah.
And the principle behind that, just to get that out there, the name, Never the Name, is simply because somebody asked me once upon a time, what's the name of the band? And then my response was, it's never the name that matters. It's whether or not you like the music. That's how that name came to be.
That's awesome. So Consequences, it was released as a single, correct?
Yes.
And then afterwards, it looks like you guys made the video, filmed at the House of Independence. Can you talk a little bit about what that process was like?
Sure. So the music video was an idea I had, I was trying to think of how I could relay the message of the song without it being so on the nose, so to speak, what it was necessarily talking about, but yet, getting the point across. So I came up with the idea of just having the band performing to ourselves, the two sides of one's self. So when we're on the stage in the video, we're dressed in all black, and when we're on the floor performing back to ourselves during the chorus, we're dressed in white top, black bottom.
Right.
Because there was some back and forth about whether it should be all white, but I did not want to ultimately convey almost like life and death in that strict of a sense.
Yeah.
Because then that's what you end up with. So we kind of split the difference and said we'll do white on the top and keep the black on the bottom, almost like you're somewhere between. That's what we wanted to be like, to say, I know what you're thinking, but you're not there yet, and there's still a chance to turn it around.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, storyboarded it out.
Nice.
We got both music videos done in less than 2 hours. We do everything as DIY, so we do it. We do everything ourselves.
I love it. Love it.
Went there, had my wife. I dragged her along and have her do stuff, and I absolutely love her for that. So shout out to 𝐿aSandra, I love you. And we go over there. We go over there with 2 iPhones, iPhone gimbal, which just kind of stabilizes and does things, and then a stationary cam, and worked with the House of Independence to kind of set it all up and get it done, and had that play out for us, and it just kind of really worked out. So shout out to Mark, by the way, from House of Independence for that.
Yeah, that was a
House of Independence and Concert Crave, which is another thing that they have. He really helped us, get in there and get it done. And we filmed it in, like I said, less than 2 hours, just following a storyboard. You storyboard it out, it kind of kills, any empty space, so we know what to do and what we're doing. And everybody just got right into it. Like, we get in, we load in, we set up, we get right to it because the clock is running.
Mm-hmm.
We film it, get all the segments from the storyboard. Everybody, we get all the clips, and then I go home. I take about a day or two away from it just to get away from it, and then I sit and I edit it.
That's a tedious process, correct?
It is. I did the first video, and I did the second video, and then, if you like, I know you watched the second video, there's that really cool effect where we're face to face with ourselves at the same time at one point. That was a challenge, but
yeah, cool.
Pulling that off, that kind of stuff. But I like that we're a DIY band. We get things done, and we do it ourselves. We do it on a budget.
That's great. That's
the way to do it. But
I love it.
As long as you get good results, I'm happy with it. I can sleep in it.
Well, the results of the video at Consequences is fantastic, and so it sounds like you guys knew exactly what you were, what you wanted to do. So that once you got in there, it was kind of like you weren't really wasting time. You kind of went in there and did it, but you knew what you were doing before you even got in.
Absolutely, you got to get it done that way.
And then,
so I said, we literally have a storyboard and we just follow it.
That's great. And did you tell me that that was filmed with iPhones?
Yeah.
That's a cool thing to hear, that it was done with that. And you would never know.
Yeah, let's be honest. Cell phones these days. We all use iPhones, but whatever it is, cell phones these days, they have amazing cameras on them.
Agreed.
And between that and some filters to give it certain things,
sure.
Like that video has almost like I don't know how to describe it, like light streaks and a glare over us all the time. You throw that on and it looks nice and polished, and there you go.
That's cool. And a little bit of techie stuff, because I'm actually still learning the techie stuff myself too. As far as editing goes, how did you have training in editing, or are you doing it as you go along?
I would say it's funny. I have no formal training in editing,
Okay.
but I have been editing videos for well over Jesus, well over 10 years, probably closer to 20 years, just because I've always had an interest in it.
Yeah, same.
So I've always played around with it, and it's just gotten to the point where I know what I need to do to pull something off, and I know what apps or what programs or what setup I have to use to do it. So no formal training, but I just have unofficially been doing it for a long time.
Great. Well, the like I said, the video is fantastic. The song is great. The performers, the musicians are great. I mean, you've assembled a great assembly of talent, putting out some great videos. And you said this is going to be Consequences. Is that it's going to be on the upcoming album?
Yes. So the upcoming album, which is named Millennial Boomer Consumer.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Looking to put that out sometime in the spring. I don't know whether it'll be mid to late April or early May. 7 tracks, so it's an EP. And Consequences is the second of what was scheduled to be 3 singles, but there's some talks about putting out a 4th single, but that would still be after the album comes out. The next single will come out before the album, but the 4th one that we're considering would be after the album. So yeah.
Great. Well, good luck getting it together. It sounds like what you've got so far, sounds and looks really good. So you're almost there, sounds like.
Yeah, it's getting there, and the album it's patient. It's being patient because the album is finished, the album's mixed, the album's mastered, the album is registered, and all of the paperwork is done. It's
great.
Just hitting the dates for releasing the tracks, and then the work never stops. Just trying to schedule things out and keep the content coming and keep tasks coming. And for the next music video, I'm trying something brand new. I'm stepping into completely uncharted territory for it, but I'm not going to reveal that yet.
Okay, all right.
You'll just have to wait and see. But
yeah,
I'm learning a new skill just for the sake of doing this video.
Building up some intrigue for the next podcast, maybe.
That's right. You got to build it up, and if you make sure I'm gonna plug it again. Stay tuned. You got to follow Never the Name.
Yep.
We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're on TikTok. And Instagram and TikTok, it's never_the_name. And YouTube, it's just Never the Name.
And for us older people, you're still on Facebook?
No, we are not.
You guys are not on Facebook. Okay.
There's no official Never the Name Facebook page, but the band members are on Facebook, okay. So that's usually how the stuff might pop up or circulate around Facebook. But Never the Name, the band, is not on Facebook.
Gotcha. I'm glad you clarified that. Will there be any touring? Any gigs?
Oh, absolutely. There'll be gigs. There'll be some touring. I've got some stuff lined up for, again, moving more towards the spring. Working with some management and some other things to set up some shows and a tour. And maybe along the way we'll start kind of filling the space just so we can kind of get out there and play a song or two, at least a show or two at least before the official album release show, which again will be closer to when the album is, even though I don't know exactly when that will be, but that stuff will be coming up. Yes.
Great.
It will be live Never the Name show.
Great. Can't wait. I'm looking forward to actually seeing a live gig. Will Blakey from Never the Name. Again, thanks for calling in. And
Thank you for having me.
Oh, this was great. And we hope to see it out on the road at some point and to hear the album. Good luck with all of it.
Thank you so much. Thanks again for having me.
Thanks, Will.